I admire my Tia Sonia.
Thank you, Bobby. I admire you a lot. I'm proud of you. I'm very proud.
My Tia Sonia fought against Castro in Cuba when she was a little girl, when she was a kid. She fought in the counter-revolution, and she was thrown in prison. She was tortured. And she came to America. She came here seeking freedom. My Tia Sonia is a woman of incredible strength, but also incredible love. You know, she and my dad are very close. So when I grew up as a little kid, we spent a lot of time at Tia Sonia's home. My grandparents, my abuelo and abuela, lived with Tia Sonia. And Bibi is Tia Sonia's daughter. Bibi's my cousin. She's 5 years older than I am. And we grew up like brother and sister. We grew up together. It was a house with a lot of love. It was a house with my abuelo dominating the room, smoking his pipe, expressing an opinion, expressing wisdom on every topic under the sun. It was a house where Tia Sonia had a pair of sandals that she called her chancletas.
Oh my goodness.
And when the children were misbehaving, and Bibi and I were often misbehaving, I will tell you, she could hit a kid at 20 paces with a chancleta.
That's right.
And it was, it was the old line about, parents having eyes in the back of their head. You would be doing mischief off in the corner, and suddenly, across the room, a spinning chancleta would hit you in the back of the head, and she could drop you at 20 paces.
That's right.
And so we lived in perpetual fear of the chancleta coming across the living room, which was a very
That's
effective.
true.
Yeah, we got
It
that.
worked.
It worked very well. And I'll tell you one of the things that was amazing. When she came, my dad came to America in '57. He was fleeing Batista. He had been imprisoned and tortured by Batista. And in '59 is when Castro succeeded, the revolution succeeded, and Tia Sonia began fighting against Castro. Began joining with the rebels, burning down sugarcane fields. Fled to the hills, lived in the caves.
That's right.
And was repeatedly thrown in jail, repeatedly treated horrifically. And when she came to America, like my dad, she couldn't speak English. She got a job first as a hostess at a Mexican food restaurant. Couldn't speak English other than, what was it you could say?
Do you want a booth or a table? That was it.
And then she ended up getting a job at a bank, and she got hired as a teller and worked her way up at the bank to be a vice president of the bank. And throughout it all, she was a single mom to Bibi. A single mom. She was a young mother. You were 22 when Bibi was born.
Right.
And you raised a strong, vibrant, loving daughter.
Thank you.
And it's, I love you, Tia.
I love you, Dad. I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud that you're going to bring to this country what we always need, the fight for the liberty that you have inside of you. I love you very much.
It's one of the things, I think Bibi and I are really blessed. We're fortunate in many, many ways. But one of the ways is being the children of immigrants who came with nothing, but came wanting freedom. You couldn't grow up in our family without understanding every day just how incredible it is what we have here, just how incredible. America has been a beacon for the world. It's been a beacon of hope. It's been a beacon of freedom. And to be the child of immigrants with nothing makes you understand every single day how extraordinary what we have here in America is, and makes you committed to fight for our freedom. I remember when we were kids, my dad used to say to me, used to say to Bibi all the time, that when he faced oppression in Cuba, they had a place to flee to. If we lose our freedom here,
We don't have anywhere to go.
my whole life since I was a little kid, what I wanted to do is fight for freedom. It's one of the blessings of being
That's right.
the children of freedom fighters.
Right.
Is it makes you understand. You know, Reagan famously observed that liberty is not passed on in the bloodstream from one generation to the next, but that every generation has to stand up and fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've seen freedom taken away, you understand how precious it is. You understand how important it is to protect what makes America a miracle. You know, there's been no nation in the history of the world like the United States. No nation that has welcomed people from across the globe, fleeing oppression, coming with nothing, but with a heart for a better life. And I think that's the fundamental DNA of what it means to be an American, to value freedom and opportunity above everything else, to understand the unlimited potential of free men and free women, the unlimited potential of each and every human being to achieve our hopes and dreams. That's what this country's about. Bibi, why don't you share what it was like growing up in our family?
Well, I was an only child, as you know, and you were like my kid brother. You know, I think I must have done so many girly things, unfortunately, with you. Made you play my Barbies, made you dress up and do all the fun things that kids do. But
Sorry, start the answer looking at him and then come look at me.
yeah.
I just gotta get your hair out of your face, we can't see you on this camera.
Oh,
Start the
Just move
answer
it back.
looking at him. Ted, maybe you can set her up again.
okay. And
Then
say,
start the answer and then turn and look at me
okay,
to continue.
okay, okay.
Bibi, why don't you share what it was like growing up in our family?
Well, Ted, growing up with you was unbelievable. We did so many things as kids. He was my kid brother. You were the guy that I hung out with, my little sidekick, and I made you play Barbies. I made you go out to the playground with me. We did dress up together, and it was so much fun. I mean, I just think that.
You know, I still remember, Bibi, when I was probably 4 or 5, and you and Miriam and Roxana, my sisters, dressed me up as a bald eagle
We dressed you up like a bald
on
eagle.
the 4th of July and stuck me on our dog Jingles. I mean, I was your giant doll, and you had me walking through the house dressed as a bald eagle on this golden lab.
That's
You thought it was a lot of fun. I'm still probably in therapy as a result.
I know. We balanced you on the dog, and you were a sport. I mean, we bribed you with candy or with abuela's empanadas that she would make, and we'd say, okay, you get on the dog, you put this on, and you were happy to do it for the Cuban pastries that we would give you afterwards. But it was a lot of fun. We grew up having a lot of love in our home, didn't we? And
Tell me what you admire about your mom.
I admire my mother because she is a strong, strong woman that even though she has faced adversity, she has dusted herself off and said, in order for me to make something of myself, in order for me to give you a better life, in order for me to teach you the values of freedom, I'm going to get up and work because it's up to me to create my reality. It's up to me to choose the future that I want for myself and the future that I want for you. I admire her tenacity. I admire her drive. I admire her forgiveness because of the things that she's gone through. She's had to do a lot of forgiving because forgiveness gives you the freedom to choose your destiny. And I admire that about you, Mom.
Thank you. I admire you too.
You know, I'll tell you, there's no one like my tia Sonia, my tia Loca. That's
Tia
what I
Loca.
call her. Because I've never known someone else with more fire, more strength, more passion, more love.
I'm proud of you, Ted. And I know you're going to bring this country, and people are going to realize the same thing that I have. I have it because there is freedom, and you will carry that torch. You will carry it to keep us free and with the liberty that we need. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Tia. One last thing, baby. Share what it was like growing up with my father as your uncle
Ooh,
and the role he played in your life.
that's right.
Okay. Do I look at you?
Start looking at me and
So
then.
that you can look at him from time to time, but don't just stand in the hole.
Okay. Well, Ted, growing up with your dad, you know, I'm lucky because he was my uncle, or is my uncle, but he was a father figure to me. He's been like a father figure to me. He's the grandparent to my children, and he is a man of great wisdom. Yet he has a heart that is so precious and so sweet and has shown me the love of a father. He is the person that led me to Christ, and that made the biggest difference in my life and in the life of my children. Your dad has been a stern man, a disciplinarian, but the wisdom that he has shared in our life and my life is invaluable.
You know, I remember one time when I was in college, I was 17 years old. I had gone away to Princeton. It was it was a whole new world to me. It was not a world I'd grown up in at all. It's not a world I knew much of anything about. And when I was there, I was alone, was looking for acceptance. And we all make mistakes when we're younger. Okay? With some older students, they were sophomores. They were members of the basketball team, which on the Princeton campus was about as cool as you could get. And they invited me to join their their poker game, which I was pretty excited about. And
Sorry, one thing. What I want to say, they invited me to join their poker game. They didn't say basketball.
Bill, I need to stop here.
105, 2 mark. 3 cam, 105, 2 mark.
Thank you.
They invited me.
so they invited me to join their poker game. And what I didn't realize at the time is they didn't really want to be my friends. Instead, they were looking for an easy mark, and I was the mark. I discovered after the fact that they were pooling their winnings and pooling their losses, which is a huge advantage at poker. And I had thought I was a pretty good poker player, but within a couple of weeks, I ended up losing $2,000, which for a 17-year-old kid away at college was pretty scary. Even worse than that was that my parents had just gone bankrupt. They'd lost their business, oil had crashed, they'd had a small business, and they'd gone under. and I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell my parents what had happened. So I called my Tia Sonia, and I said, listen, I'm 2 months into college. I've lost $2,000. I don't want to tell my parents. Can you help? And she loaned me $2,000. She was a single mom at the time. She didn't have a whole lot of money, but she loaned it to me. And I went and got a second campus job. And for the next 2 years, sent her $80 every month to pay back that loan. But that, Tia Sonia was someone you could always count on when you were in trouble, and that meant a lot.
I wrote you a promissory note, if you recall. It's a one-page note. And I said, Ted, you have to pay me back. I don't have any money. And he did. He did. He paid every penny back. I'm very proud of you. Very proud.
One other thing. You know, one of the things that I think brings the Hispanic community together is shared values. If you look at the values that resonate in the Hispanic community, faith, family, patriotism, the American dream. We are all the sons and daughters of those who risked everything for freedom. That's what ties our community together. It's what ties Americans together. And one of the most difficult challenges of the past 6 years is that opportunity is becoming harder and harder for people to realize. The American dream seems distant, and we've got to get back to the environment to the principles that built this country, to the principles that let people come with nothing.
You're right.
And achieve anything. There is no nation on earth that a single mom, not speaking the language, could show up with nothing and build a home and provide a future for a strong, vibrant daughter who now is going on to build her own home with her 2 wonderful children.
One of the things that make this country so beautiful, many of our Cuban people have died looking for the same thing that I achieved, my liberty, the opportunity of the lifetime, coming with nothing. Many, many lives have been left behind, looking for the same thing that we achieve. And I think with you helping us get understanding our principles, our ethic, and looking to make American the best, they will have the opportunity that I have, having my daughter, having my grandchildren, having my son-in-law, my brother and the family together. We all can achieve the same.
That's right.
We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation built by people coming, seeking a better life. And I'll tell you, there is no stronger advocate of legal immigration
That is correct.
in the U.S. Senate than I am. Because I understand firsthand that's what's built this country. We've got to respect and honor the rule of law, but we've got to remain a nation that welcomes and celebrates what Reagan referred to as Americans by choice. That's who we are. That's who we are as a people. I admire you, Tia. And I love you.
I love you, Ted. I admire you, and I know you're going to do the best to keep us all looking for a best place to live. It's the life in this country is the most wonderful thing that we can ever carry. I love you, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Tia.
My name is Audrey Loyola, and I'm 17 years old.
My name is Diego Loyola, and I'm 15 years old.
Ted Cruz is my cousin, but my mom and him have grown up like brother and sister, so he's always been like an uncle to me. And he has just taught me so much about what I know today about our country and the foundations of how our country began and our founding fathers, etc. and just like how our family has actually like made a difference and an impact in our country today.
Ted Cruz is my cousin, but he's more like an uncle to me. He's always around when I need him. He's a great guy. He's really inspirational to me in all the things that he's done. He's a leader, and I admire that.
And what's funny is that people think that he's like, you know, he's this figure for everyone, but he's really just like a normal guy. He comes over and he'll play basketball with Diego, and yes, he does beat him, but they just have fun together, and he's just like super cool. Like we'll sit down and just talk about like my future. I'm going to college next year, and so he just like talks me through it, and it's like, oh, I remember when I was in college, and just like he just like goes through, and it's just like a really cool guy, and like almost like I consider Uncle Ted to be like my best friend almost.
What he's done for me is amazing. He's, like Audrey said, he's always at the house, and he plays basketball with me, and he sometimes beats me, but he's just really cool. He always helps us out with what we need help with, like our problems. He talked Audrey through what are the right steps for her to go to college and what she needs to do to be successful. So that's really neat, and how he leads us in successful ways.
And regardless of just being a leader in the Senate, he's also like a leader in our family, and he's someone that I look up to, and like he almost puts his like problems aside when it comes to our family, and he just like is always there and open, and is a very great listener and really cares, and you can tell that he really cares about what we are doing in our life. I am not yet old enough to vote. I will be here coming up in January, but I really encourage the youth of America to just open their eyes and really dig into just the foundations of how we want our country to be led. And I believe that Ted Cruz has everything and even more to run our country just amazingly and perfectly. I'm turning 18 this coming year, and the very first time I'm ever going to be allowed to vote, I'm going to be voting for my Tio Ted, and that's just like the most amazing opportunity that I could have ever thought of. I remember my mom and I took my brother and I to go vote for George Bush, and we walked out of the voting polls, and she was like, "Okay, kids, who did we vote for?" And we looked up with wide eyes, and we were like, "Tio Ted, Tio Ted," and she was like, "No, maybe soon, like sometime you will be voting for Tio Ted." And so it's just great to think back to that one story, and now realizing that he will be the first president I ever vote for. Freedom for young people today means everything and more to us. I mean, especially in my family, coming from the background that my grandparents had to fight for our freedom, it's something that we cherish and really hold true to our hearts because it's how we've gotten to where we are today. And so I really do encourage the young people to actually sit back and look and not take everything for granted, because it's something so true and so real that we just need to really just dive into and acknowledge. So I have grown up in a Christian school all my life. I've never known the public arena of school. And I've just grown up with having chapel. I have grown up in a Christian school all my life, from pre-K up to now my senior year. And I've always learned about Jesus in all of my classes. We've prayed, we've had chapel once a week since I can even remember. And just having that foundation in my life has really helped me become the woman I've become. And going to Baylor University next year and knowing that they stand for the same morals and the same foundation that I've grown up on has just been a huge blessing for me to be able to further my relationship with Christ, not only with my education, but internally and like physically and emotionally as well. Politics is important to me because my family has shown me that it's the difference between being free or losing that freedom.
My name is Joe Makopit. I'm 29 years old from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and this is my uncle, Ted Cruz.
You know, my nephew Joey is someone who I've known his entire life. I remember holding Joey when he was a newborn baby. I was 15 when he was born. His mom was my oldest sister, Miriam. Miriam was 9 years older than I am. I have two two older sisters, Miriam and Roxana, who are a year apart in age. And they're half-sisters. They're sisters from my father's first marriage. And when both of them were little girls, our father and their mom divorced. And, you know, kids react differently to divorce. They react differently to their parents splitting apart. It was very hard on my sister Miriam. It was very hard on her. She, like a lot of kids, unfortunately do. I think she blamed herself as a little girl for her parents not staying together. And Miriam passed away a few years ago. Miriam was a beautiful girl. She was really smart. She was full of life. She was loving. When I was a little boy, she used to let me, when I was 2 and 3 years old, pull her hair and pull as hard as I could at 2 or 3 years old, and she would just sit there and let me yank on her hair, almost ripping clumps out of her hair, but she would just endure whatever her baby brother could dish out. When Miriam got older, she struggled. She had a difficult life. Miriam had a lot of problems with alcohol abuse and substance abuse, pretty much her entire adult life. She took a lot of pain meds. She made a lot of bad choices. I remember when I was in college, I was going to college up at Princeton, and Miriam and Joey were living in Philadelphia. And I would come and spend Thanksgivings with them down in Philly. I remember one Thanksgiving, you were a little boy, I don't know if you remember this, but one Thanksgiving, my sister was a lot of things, but a good cook was not one of them. and she was, since her kid brother was coming, she was going to try to cook a turkey, but she didn't know how to cook a turkey. And she didn't put it in the oven till I think 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So when I showed up, if you remember, we had Thanksgiving dinner at 2 in the morning because the turkey wasn't ready.
I remember that.
Until 2 in the morning. Miriam raised Joey as a single mom for most of Joey's life. She and Joey's dad divorced when
I believe I was around 2 years old when they split.
yeah, I mean, he was a young boy, and Miriam was a single mom with a young son, and she also had problems with the law. She was a couple of different times sent to jail for shoplifting. I still remember her calling me from jail in Pennsylvania, where she served significant time, and I remember her crying about how difficult it was. When Joey was in 6th grade, things took a real turn for the worse with my sister. She had come out of prison and had fallen in with some pretty unsavory characters, and the substance abuse was getting a lot worse. And I still remember my father and I together driving to Philadelphia, where she was at the time living in what was basically a crack house. And it was, I remember my dad and I leaving our rings and watches and wallets all at home in my apartment because we didn't know if we were going to be robbed. We didn't know if we were going to make it out of this, but we were going to go and try and get my sister and try and
Excuse me. I'm gonna go get my sister.
I didn't know if we were going to be robbed. I didn't know if we'd make it out of there, but we were going to go and try and get my sister and try to help her get back on her feet and help her be the mom that Joey needed her to be. And we did. I still remember sitting in a IHOP with Miriam in Philadelphia with my father and me, trying to tell her, Miriam, your son needs you. And she wasn't at a point where she was ready to pull out of the spiral she was in. And it was a very, very difficult conversation because she didn't want to change from the path she was on. And at the time, I was a young lawyer. I'd just gotten out of law school a couple of years earlier, and I'd just gotten my first job at a law firm. And I ended up basically taking out a loan on my credit card for about $20,000 to pay for Joey to go to a boarding school, Valley Forge Military Academy, for your 7th grade year. And it was, he needed an environment that was safe, that provided some discipline, that could take care of him, because his mother at that point was not in a position to be able to take care of him. And so I took a cash advance on the credit card and wrote a check to Valley Forge for the tuition. All told, it was about $20,000. And Joey went as a 7th grader. I still remember the uniform, and it was it provided, I think, a real refuge, a solace in a time of significant challenge. And he spent a year at Valley Forge, and by the end of that year, Miriam had turned around some. She had not turned around entirely, but she had gotten to the point where she could hold a job and pay her rent and get back to providing the home that Joey needed. It was
Joey, were you aware, can you say if you were aware that your uncle was paying for your tuition and how you felt about it, that he did that big gesture for you? So you want to start out and say, when he sent me, when my uncle helped pay for my tuition, I knew about it and how I felt about it. So start with when my uncle.
Well, I was at my dad's, and I remember getting the call. Should I go
sure,
from there?
yeah.
So I was visiting my dad when I was young. My mom and my dad split, so I was visiting my dad for the summer. And I remember getting a call and a package in the mail. Let me go back. I remember getting a call that I was going to get a package in the mail with some information about a school, and it came with a videotape. And I spoke to my Uncle Ted and my grandfather, and they wanted me to take a look at this video and see if this was something that I would be interested in. And they just told me what kind of opportunity that this school would be able to offer me by going to Valley Forge. And when I got the tape, it looked exciting, and it looked like a great opportunity. And I knew that my uncle and my grandfather were giving me this opportunity to make sure that I was in the right place. You know, I was going in the right direction with some foundation to go off of. And I remember watching the video and just making a decision to go. And I think they had me on a plane like the next day back to Philadelphia to go to Valley Forge because I was already a few weeks late from the start of the semester.
Could you say how it turned your situation around, if it was beneficial, and were you in touch with your uncle during that time and reporting to him on the results? Can you tell that part of it?
When I was in Valley Forge, it gave me just the foundation that the system that they use as far as responsibility. You know, the whole school is pretty much run by its students. And being at that age, I was 12 years old at the time, and having responsibility to have to go through the day and do my studies and everything on my own. It felt good to have the responsibility, and I was talking with my uncle and my grandfather, and just having like the right direction that they were giving me, and just, you know, helping me stay focused with what I needed to do while I was there, and not have to worry about the personal things that were going on at home.
Can you say what your relationship has been like with your uncle since that time? My relationship with my uncle since then has been, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. How has it been?
It's been great. It's distant because of
Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna say, my relationship with my uncle has meant a great deal to me since that time, and then just some detail.
So my relationship with my uncle, that's how I should start.
Yeah, say my Uncle Ted.
Okay. The relationship with my Uncle Ted since that time has been great. Not having my father around much really left a hole that I was able to fill with my Uncle Ted, giving me, you know, guidance in certain times in life when I really needed it. And coming out of Valley Forge Military Academy when I was so young and having this experience behind me, he just gave me the right direction to keep moving forward, and to just, you know, just never take second place, you know, if you can go for first.
You know, one of the things that I've always been really proud of Joey is that, I mean, he was raised in a tough environment. And a lot of kids in that environment would have followed the path of their mom, would have made the same mistakes. And Joey hasn't. I am proud of the path you've taken. He's got a good job with a lot of responsibility, and he is hardworking and diligent. And, you know, I'll tell you, it was an amazing thing, even when Joey was a little kid, and my sister was struggling. There was a peace and serenity about Joey. At 6 or 7, you would look at me, and it was almost like what he was saying as a young boy is, listen,
Excuse me. Let's see, what he was saying as a young boy. It was almost...
there was a peace and serenity about him. It was almost like what he was saying as a young boy was, you know, I know my mom's struggling, but I'm going to be all right. I don't know how to describe it other than just, as a little kid, he understood that Miriam had demons she was wrestling with, and she was self-medicating, and we couldn't get her to stop. But he had this awareness, and Miriam had a loving heart, an incredible heart. And I'm so proud of Joey for just persevering and standing on his own feet and not going down that same path, but instead making a life for himself. I'm proud of you, Joey.
Thank you.
Hug. Go ahead.
My first job was in a chocolate factory. And I started out as a laborer, just a material handler, driving forklifts and just doing various maintenance on different equipment around the plant. And after about 2 years, I made my way up to a control technician, which runs the computer systems for the machines that process the chocolate into chocolate liquor. So now part of my job is to keep records for, looking back, I know my Uncle Ted made a big sacrifice in sending me to the military academy, but without that, I don't know if I would have been able to come out and become the person I am today and turn my life around and just want to constantly push forward and progress. And without that, I would not be where I am today.
You know, one of the things I'm proud of Joey, he got hired at the chocolate factory, 7, 8 years ago?
About 8 years.
And, started off driving a forklift and moving materials and worked his way up. And the job he's in now had previously been held by an engineer with a degree in engineering, and Joey doesn't have any formal training in engineering, but he taught himself how to operate the systems at the factory and has done a remarkable job with it.
I saw an opportunity to learn the systems and the control systems that they use. And at that point, I realized that this could be my stepping stone to move forward and just excel as much as I could, and just to learn as much as I possibly could from the person that held the position before me. And my Uncle Ted has been a huge inspiration for me ever since I was younger, just to progress and just to keep moving forward, and that you can come from anything, and your future is really what you make it, and just hard work and perseverance is just really all it takes. The years my mom was struggling was difficult for me. I felt that I took on the role of the parent in that relationship, and just needed to be the responsible one and try to do as much as I could to keep myself from following that same road. And with guidance from my Uncle Ted and the rest of my family, I was able to get past that part of my life and get to a better point. And that's where I feel like I am today. And I don't think I'd be here without that kind of push or, that kind of
Example.
yeah, without that kind of example in my life to really, propel me forward.
Hugs, and I love
Proud
you.
of you, Joey. I love you.
I love you too.